I'm Scott Allen Miller. This is my life living in Latin America. We are finally back in Nicaragua after several weeks in the United States for the holidays, and we are very thankful to be home. It is so nice to be warm once again. We have been cold for weeks. It's funny how much we've adjusted to Nicaraguan temperatures. That's not to say that Leon doesn't seem warm, but in general, Nicaraguan temperatures, even here in Leon, feel more natural than the cold in New York. New York especially, the cold was so bitter cold. We were in physical pain every time we went outside. I can't believe how much we've adjusted and how hard it is for us to go outside and do things in winter when we're in New York, but it's really true. So we are back in Nicaragua, and on our way back, I'm going to regale you with a little bit of our travel information, but there's not very much to tell. It's a very uneventful trip, but more importantly, on this particular trip, we, for the first time, did our own investigation and tried out the VIP service and lounge at Managua Airport, which I think quite a few of you may be interested in. It is quite affordable and offers a number of services that may make the entire process of coming into Nicaragua much more approachable for those of you who are coming in for the first time and aren't sure what to do and how to handle things. And for those who come in on a regular basis, it may just make things easy enough that you may want to consider it because it is a nice option. We're certainly going to consider it in the future. So I took a minute to record the lounge and to acquire the information so that you guys could figure out how to do it yourselves. And I'm going to share that with you right after the bump. On this particular trip back from New York, we took Spirit Airlines all the way from Rochester, New York to Managua, Nicaragua, with a layover in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, as all of Spirit's flights transfer through there. And it all went very smoothly. We had a very nice flight. Everything was very cheap. We did the upgrade where we got the 2 seats with the middle seat that is eliminated. It's just a table. It was a very cheap upgrade overall. We got a deal on that. We are silver members with Spirit and have the credit card, so that does give us a few benefits plus early boarding and all that. So that was very comfortable. The kids had their own row. We got, because of that, we had personal items, carry-on items, and full-size luggage, which are 50-pound limits on Spirit. So all that was super easy. We were able to bring 11 bags back with us, which was a big deal because at the last minute, leaving my father's house, we said, wait a minute, my guitar, which I've had since I don't even know when I got it, probably around 15. My mother bought it for me, and my classical guitar that I did all my performance work with, and I've always wanted to get it back since we moved abroad 10 years ago, and I've never had that opportunity. And finally, I saw it at my dad's house, and I said, you know, don't we have an allowance to bring this? We have enough extra luggage. And Dominica's like, oh no, there's like 30 minutes before we left. And she's like, yes, we can fit it. So we scrambled at the last second and brought my guitar with us as well. So we had a lot of luggage. We had big items, really heavy items, but Spirit has that 50-pound limit, which is one of the higher ones. And we got all that allowance. We were really able to bring a ton of stuff back, which we will talk about what happened at aduana after we talk about the VIP lounge. But so that went really well, but it was super cold. Well, we stayed at this is a funny story, the Hilton Spark, which I already added that video into an earlier one, but so cool just to stay at the hotel that I had stayed at previously, or that I'd worked at previously before leaving to run my own company full time. That was the last time that I ever didn't have my own company. Of course, I was very young at the time. That was a quarter century ago. We went out to dinner at Delmonico's, which is right next door to the hotel and fantastic. They're actually a steakhouse chain out of Utica, New York, my wife's hometown. And so we know them from Utica. We had no idea that they were a chain. So it was very cool that we got to go there. We've eaten with them in Utica previously and finding them in Rochester. And then we found out they're all over New York and even in Orlando, Florida. So if you happen to be in the area, you see a Delmonico's Steakhouse, definitely check them out. The food was amazing. And even with all of our sensitivities to eating U.S. food and getting sick pretty much all the time, not terribly sick, just you know, stomach upset and stuff, the kind of things you get when eating foreign food these days. We didn't get any of that from there. All of the food we had was excellent. The kids loved it. We really enjoyed it. Like, just all in all, it's a rather expensive location, but well worth the price. One of the places that's actually earning their higher prices. So we were very happy with that. It was so cold, though. We were in serious pain. Now, Spirit told us that there were problems getting through security and onto the plane with enough time and that people would miss their flight. So they encouraged us, as is required in the U.S., to appear 3 hours before an international flight. So we did that. We had the Uber pick us up at 3, which they picked us up and they're like, the airport's not even open. Why do they have you come so early? We're like, what do you mean it's not open? This is the required time under U.S. requirements. This is the FAA regulations say 3 hours. Spirit was just reiterating them. And if nothing else, you're always required to be 2 hours even for a domestic flight. Of course, you can come later, but you always risk not making it to your flight. They don't have to let you on a flight if you're not there 2 hours before for domestic flights. So we got there just after 3, maybe 3:15, maybe 3:20. We got to the airport and, of course, discovered that the airport was closed. They do let you in the doors, but they do not have any of the gates open. They do not have security active. None of the check-in counters are open, so that was really annoying that we got there. We did everything we could, but of course the automated kiosks don't function properly, so that was a waste of time. None of it was very practical, and we had to wait 40 minutes just for the security gates to open, and at least we knew that the airport was starting to open. Once security opened at 4 a.m., we still had to wait 5 to 10 minutes before Spirit opened, so there was less than 2 hours from the time that they opened until we had to be actually taking off, let alone at our gate. So the amount of time that we had was extremely little, and we weren't, as like I said, we weren't able to print our boarding passes. We weren't able to label our luggage before we went. So we had to do all of that, which they helped us. They got us right through, went through security, and it was all just fine. We got to the gate with plenty of time, so it wasn't a big thing, but we got such a warning that there was all these problems and all these requirements, both from Spirit and from the airport and from the U.S. government, the FAA, about when you're supposed to be at the airport. And once again in the U.S., the airport wasn't open, and no one was operating at the times that we were required to go through. So there's this problem where you are not guaranteed that you will be allowed to make a flight under conditions that are available to you. It is not possible for us in the entire time that we've been traveling on this particular trip to meet the FAA requirements. So you're caught in you can never guarantee that it's something that you're supposed to be able to make your flight, right? The airports, the security mechanisms, all those things have no responsibility to make sure they can get you through on time because the requirement is impossible to meet. So that was really frustrating. But in general, everything else at the airports was pretty good. We moved through pretty quickly. We did have some long lines previously in Orlando, but they still got us to the gate on time, but there was a lot of concern. They had to prioritize people because the security was so slow. But there they were doing the dogs walking with you and everything. Here it was just really early in the morning. But as people who fly internationally, our flights are almost always really early in the morning to be able to arrive the same day. Like, it just ends up that way wherever we go. I'm surprised by how many people forget that early morning flights exist, including the airlines themselves, the airports, the Ubers. Like, everybody seems to disavow anything that happens before 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and in some cases even later, like the Hiltons, which only offer shuttles for flights starting at 10 a.m. So the shuttles are earlier, but the flight you could make it to 10 a.m. is the earliest one that you'd be able to safely get to. So it's really crazy how much the often most important flight period of the day, the early morning flights, are simply ignored and no one accommodates for them. So it's really weird. But anyway, we got onto our flight. Everything went fine. We had the big spacious seats. That was quite nice. We really liked having so much luggage space and so much foot space and able to have drinks next to us. And no, we're not going to have a person sit between us. Obviously, like, we're pretty flexible flyers for the most part. So I even don't mind sitting in the middle seat most of the time, but it's awfully nice to have the window or the aisle and lots of extra space. So we were very comfortable with that. I think the kids like it. They just fall asleep. I don't even know if they care. So we got to Fort Lauderdale. That was very smooth. Just walked through the airport right to the gate. Had plenty of time to do whatever. Bought a little bit of food, got a bagel, and flew on to Rochester. Flew on to Managua. Came from Rochester. And so that brings us to, so we arrived in Managua, no problems whatsoever. And when we got off, this is where we got to use the VIP experience that we're going to talk about today. So this is really the thing that I wanted to bring to your attention. Now, I was not aware of this until relatively recently. Some friends of ours use this service and are like, no, we really recommend it. You should give it a try. And so they told us about it. We're like, well, okay, it's definitely at least worth trying to do this episode, right? Give good feedback to people, because I think this is something that people should be interested in and looking into, or at least considering. But it's also worth noting that on this particular trip, we had so much luggage that it made it kind of a different value. A lot of times I come into Managua and it's just me in a backpack, and really, it doesn't matter too much. If I don't have the kids with me, I don't mind standing in line. It doesn't really bother me. If I don't have to go to the baggage claim and get luggage and take that through customs and do a bunch of stuff, it doesn't really bother me. Going through the border control, no big deal, right? And in this particular case, because we had those front seats on Spirit, we were off so quickly. We were at the beginning of the line. We didn't actually need to wait more than maybe 5 minutes to go through border control. So it was if you, depending on where you are, if you're in the back of the plane, anything that you can do to help help with your weight might be well worth it. But if you're in the front, you might be through so quickly that it doesn't matter. But so the VIP officially cost us $35 per person. So depending on how many people you have. So for us, it was $138 for the 4 of us. And keep in mind, if you're going to be coming through border control and you're not a resident, it's a $10 fee to enter the country. As residents, we don't have to pay that. So it's just a fee we don't have. So it would be a total of $45, but it's $35 for the VIP, and it is $10 for border control. So the VIP is only $35, and it's worth noting that that's 2 pieces. It's $20 for the handling at the VIP and $14.50 for the salon. I don't think you can divide them up, but if you don't want, if you're not coming in, if you just want to use the salon, you're in the airport, you just want to be able to use the lounge, it's $14.50, and I'm going to have those details. But so when you're with the VIP service, and we're going to put the links for this down in the description. So if you have any questions, you can check out their website and book it through there. That's what my wife did. Very easy, no problems. And you pay while you're there. So make sure you have cash to be able to pay that. I'm sure you can pay with credit card, but cash makes life easy in some cases. And they took American in this case because that's how they're quoting things. Obviously, you can pay with Cordoba. So we come in off the plane, we come down the gangway. And just as we're arriving at the first stop, which is immigration, they have a person standing there with a sign that says our names on it. And we're like, yes, okay. So it just said Scott Miller and family. Walked up, we're like, yep, that's us. They're like, here you go. And they had a person waiting for us. They immediately took our luggage that we had and helped us. And they had a couple questions. For example, are we residents? They took our cedulas, which are our national ID cards, so they could prove we don't owe the $10. Anytime you're a resident, you have to have your passport for us, that's the United States, and your cedula, which is Nicaragua, and show them together so they understand that you're a citizen of the U.S., but a resident of Nicaragua, and then that's how they handle it. And then they took us with our carry-ons and our personal items and took us to a private security scanning area that we went through an x-ray machine, as you normally do, but this was just for us, so it was much faster. We went through it immediately before going to immigration rather than after, so it's a little bit different. As soon as we went through that, no questions. That was fast as can be. Just put our stuff on a conveyor, went through, grabbed it, didn't have to take our shoes off, didn't have to be scanned ourselves. Very, very easy. And then they walked us up the stairs and right into the VIP salon. So this was just fast and easy. Within 3 minutes of being off the plane, we were sitting in big luxury seats in a big air-conditioned living room area with tables and our private bathrooms. There's 2 rooms. There's little booths you can sit at. There's like a big open area with little seating spaces. There's couches. There's TVs on that show all of the flight details. Obviously not television. They're showing the arrivals and departures, but so you can keep an eye on the official stuff from there. There's a bar, and they serve you food. And they brought out, without even asking, they just came around, they're like, what do you want to drink? We're like, oh, we'll have, Diet Cokes and some orange juice. And they brought drinks for us. That's included in the price. They brought us some sandwiches. They brought us ham and cheese sandwiches. We're vegetarian. But we asked for more. We're like, the kids are really hungry. They're like, yeah, you got it. And they brought us an all-cheese sandwich because we asked for it, so without ham, and Pringles chips. It was no big deal. Like, it was very simple stuff. But when you're just getting off the plane, you want some food, you've got that bathroom, some drinks, some food, and you can decompress and just relax in these chairs. We were there for probably half an hour, maybe a little bit more, but I'm not sure it would have sped us up any. I think it actually slowed us down, but it kept us from doing so many things and kept us from having to wait for bathrooms, kept us from having to worry about a bunch of steps. Like, we knew that all of our carry-ons and all of our personal items were already through security, through aduana, through customs, right away. We knew that was done. We had all that there was with us. We knew that we were done with the border control. We just had to wait for them to come give us our passports back. Everything was so easy and relaxed. That's worth quite a bit just to be able to decompress and chill. And with kids, it was an even bigger deal that they were just happy to be in seats and have things that they wanted. They could take out their iPads. There's Wi-Fi, of course, in the lounge. They're able to just watch shows or play games or do whatever it is they wanted to do. And that made them very happy. And we didn't have to go deal with baggage claim, which again, not a big deal, but it's a lot of stuff to move. It's a lot of standing around waiting. It's a lot of not going to the bathroom when you want to because you just came off a plane, because you want to make sure you get to the baggage claim in a reasonable amount of time. And if you're there's a lot of things to worry about when you're doing it on your own. And they took care of all that. So they went and got our luggage. They took care of our border control, which they had our passports and all that. And then they went to aduana and they went through with all of that. took care of all of that, brought us our stuff. They didn't bring our luggage to us. They actually take that to the curb and have a security guy standing there with it. And then a concierge comes and gets us at the table and is like, if you're all set, we'll take you out to your luggage, and just took us out to our luggage, which was waiting by the curb, and our driver was able to pull right up and load up and take us from there. So it was all so easy and relaxed that it depends on how much of a budget you're on and what you're bringing with you and who you're bringing with you. But I think overall, this was a pretty good value for $35 per person to have all of this stuff handled, plus that food and drink and private bathrooms and ability to relax. I felt pretty good about it. I'm not sure we'll use it every time. I won't use it personally when it's just me flying in. But when I'm coming in with the kids, I think I'm probably going to use this in the future. That really did just provide this very low-key experience once we hit the ground. Now, I do want to talk about customs a little bit, the aduana, because I did a video recently, maybe in the last 2 weeks, talking about aduana and how to think about it. And, of course, my wife does not watch my videos. She says that if she watches my videos, she'd be angry with me all the time and always feel the need to correct even... She has a tendency to... So when I'm wrong, she corrects me, but she also likes to correct me when I'm not wrong and fill in details that are not different than what I said, but not consequential to what I said, and just always feels... So she gets super frustrated if she's watching the videos and can't speak up and interject. So she does not watch them and never has. It's always been a thing. But she does know my rules for aduana and didn't want to listen to me. And we talked about it. I said, this is not how you think about aduana. But she's like, I'm sure this item is going to go through aduana without a problem. And if you watch my aduana video, the one about customs, it really is in the last 2 weeks, I said, if you bring something in, the thing that matters is it clearly an import that is not something you would take back out? It's not a tourist item. You're clearly bringing in something, especially if it could be for a business, especially if it's for household goods or whatever. It's a thing that's being left behind that could be resold. And I think it's really easy to think about what's going to be a problem at aduana. And everything that shouldn't have been a problem wasn't. Every single thing we brought in was for a very legitimate purpose that we would have brought in as tourists or residents. It doesn't matter. But she has this mentality that people have given her misinformation. She said, well, of course we can bring this in. We're a resident. Well, of course you can bring it in, but you're going to get an import tax. That's the question. The question isn't whether we're allowed. We didn't bring anything we weren't allowed to have. Of course, we're allowed to have everything. It's just that this was a thing that would qualify as an import rather than a tourist item. And the item, just to make it clear, was basically a printer. It connects to a computer, acts like a printer, but it's actually a cutter. It's for cutting out stickers that you print with something else. But it's essentially a printer. And it's under $500. She's like, but it's under $500. And aduana said, so that's not a rule. Everyone told her it was a rule. I didn't. I said there's one rule. Is it an import? Right? And but she's like, but it's under $500. They're like, that doesn't matter. And she's like, but we're residents. Like, that doesn't matter. These things do not matter. There's one thing, to the best of my knowledge, I don't have any official word on this, but every single time, without any exception, every person that I know who has had anything go up, it is the absolutely common sense, obvious thing, which is it clearly an import of an item that you would have to pay an import tax if you were bringing it in as a business to potentially sell or use as a business? And obviously this is an item that, while it's just for my kids, and that's part of her mentality, it's just my kids' stuff for Christmas, it's what they want to use for making stickers at home. That's fine, but they could, if they wanted to, start a sticker business with it, right? A business running, someone actually starting a sticker business here in Nicaragua, this is the kind of thing they would buy. So this is a legitimate import item, no matter how you slice it or dice it. And none of the other things that people like to mention, right? Everyone likes to make up their own rules. It's under 500. It's for, you're a resident. No, those are not the rules at all. And customs is very clear on this, right? So it was a perfect example. She ended up having to stay a couple hours. Me and the kids, the kids and I, we left with our first driver, and we were all out of Managua and on the Leon Road before she got out of aduana. And she tried everything she could to get out of paying an import tax, but she did have to pay $100 import tax, which is exactly what I was expecting. But she was sure that she could bring this item in, so she didn't ship it maritime like I'd wanted to do. But it's fine. Like, she wanted to experiment and see, how it actually worked. And we would have had to pay a bit to ship it by maritime, because we would have paid an import tax that way too, but less of one, right? You pay a much higher import rate at aduana if you're just ad hoc bringing something in versus using a service. So there's a reason to use a service, but there's a convenience to coming in ad hoc. Plus, if you come in, as many people do, they hope to get away with something, right? And a lot of people talk about, well, I brought such and such in. Seems like that would violate the rules, and yet they let me in. Well, yes, because they didn't notice, or they didn't think it was worth anything, or they didn't realize what it was, right? So in many cases, they just don't know, and so you end up being able to get get away with it because they didn't know what it was, or they're pretty sure that it's something that's allowed, or you didn't realize why it's allowed or whatever, or the value of it is so low it's going to be a waste of their time to try to get it. There's lots of reasons why they don't catch something, but every time they do catch something, it's exactly the same reasoning. And in this case, it was an electronic item, so those are way more likely to get caught. One, because they show up on the X-rays. Two, because they have to check it to see what it is, and just a lot of things. So once they're doing that, yeah, they definitely want to go through the import stuff. So she got stuck for nearly 2 hours additional after I left, a little bit less, and had to pay that $100, and she went with the second driver and had a bit of the luggage herself, but everything was fine, and it was exactly as I had anticipated. She just really hoped it wouldn't be that way. But it was a perfect example of what happens when someone watches my video or ignores my video about aduana and tries to come up with some alternative rules that they think are going to apply. I know of no case where that has been true, so this just reinforces the information that I've been given to you. But the VIP, I think, was a great deal, at least a really good consideration for those that it makes sense for. And if you're coming into Managua and nervous at all, I think it takes you past that point of being nervous. It gives you that time to sit, get on your phone, contact people, let them know you're safe. Remember, you can have Wi-Fi. You can make your calls and coordinate things. You can not have to worry about speaking Spanish. Like, they'll speak English to you if you need. You let them do all the Spanish communications with all the officials and different things. That makes things so much easier. And if you do need to do something, like we had to pay aduana, they'll tell you what to do and where to go. All those things that are confusing and you're not sure what to do and you could get into trouble or just get into a big hassle because you're unable to communicate, they take care of that stuff so you don't have to worry about it, and you just go and pay whatever fees or whatever. So that really, I think, for people who are coming in and are nervous about the act of crossing the border for the first time at the airport and having to deal with Nicaragua, stepping off of a plane when you're tired and confused and you know, maybe jet lag, this makes that a very comfortable experience. So something to consider. And again, in the notes, I'll have the information. So if you want to use this service, you absolutely can. We don't get we're not affiliated with them in any way. We don't get any kickbacks, just reporting on what's out there. As always, if you want to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee at the link above, buymeacoffee.com/Scott Allen Miller. It takes a lot to do the show, as you can imagine. We had to pay $138 just to go through the VIP to let you know about this. So little expenses like that really do add up, but we also get the use of them, of course. We have a bunch of new cameras. I'm going to do a special episode just as an aside to show you guys all the new tech we have post Christmas, because we have a lot of stuff going on, a lot of equipment that we brought down with us. Not import stuff, right? All things we're allowed to have without import, but we have a lot of it. This is our big haul for the year. And we also have a membership for those who want to join. You can go down there and join our community here. Not a lot of special benefits there, but if you guys think of some you want, let me know. We're going to be working really hard on coming up with swag this year. I think this is the year for that. We do have some news about Marcella's health. We're going to do a special episode about that coming up very soon. And of course, if you have your own questions, comments, or just want to say hello, get down there, scroll down and do so. We really appreciate when everybody leaves us messages. And there's information in the show notes about how you can send in a video of yourself to ask a question and be on the show. We love having you guys on. I think 2025 is going to be a really big year for us here on the show. So I'm so glad to have all of you along for this journey and to have had so many of you along for so much of this journey so far. So thanks for joining me. I will see all of you tomorrow.